all our beautiful BritAsia viewers, my name is Sharan Gidda.
And I'm Sukhi Bart. Welcome to the Big Bite Breakfast Show here on BritAsia TV.
That's right, Sukhi and I have an exciting first episode lined up for you guys, talking about some of the most taboo issues faced by our BritAsian communities and youth.
And also Sharan will be on her travels with the special recipe diaries, and also we'll be out and about spending some quality time with some of the BritAsians across the country.
Not to forget keeping you guys up to date with film reviews, releases to keep an eye out for, and reading out emails and tweets from all you guys at home.
To the guests in the studio today, I'm going to shed some light on some of the social evils and some of the issues that are hitting our societies every day. We have Mohan Singh and we have Polly as well from the Sharan Project as well. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for coming into the studio. Before we go to Mohan Singh, Polly, just a little bit about yourself, please, and a little bit about the Sharan Project itself, please. Just tell us, what do you do?
So the Sharan Project is a national charity that supports South Asian women in the UK. We particularly support women who've been disowned, so it could range from different issues, from forced marriage, from sexual exploitation to honour-based violence and much more. What we work to do is provide support for these women to live an independent life on their own terms.
And what do you find, obviously with working with women who have been disowned from their families, what kind of signs, or how do you find that these women are actually vulnerable to grooming?
Well, when a young person leaves home, it's a very devastating choice to make. Quite often it's not a choice, it's a situation they find themselves in. And when you've been completely disengaged from your family and the life you've always known, you're very isolated and you're disengaged. And because of that, you become more vulnerable. The more vulnerable you are, the more you are a prey to predators, such as groomers, but other forms of abuse as well.
And I mean, the disowned word comes over and over again. Is it an Asian thing? Is it, obviously you support the South Asian women out there. I mean, is it something that as families, if you have disowned somebody, somebody's gone, and then they come back to you, we tend to shut the door in their face? I mean, what happens in those cases?
It is very much the case that, not in every case, but in many cases, once a young girl's been disowned for either an actual dishonoured bringing shame on the family, or even perceived that she hasn't actually done something wrong, but they think she has. So whatever the reason of that disownment, it's quite often lifelong. And so rebuild somebody's life from what they've had to where they need to go from now on, it's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And like I said, the more vulnerable that person is, whether it's staying in a refuge or a bed and breakfast, or with friends, they are more vulnerable towards further abuse. And that's where they need the support the most, to say you're not on your own, there is help out there for you, and we can help you to succeed and have a good life.
And Mr. Singh, you're with us from the Sikh Awareness Society, which was established in 1998.
Yep.
You did mention to me you initially started working with, Sikh children and Sikh women and families, but you've grown obviously over the years as well, and now you're working with children.
Well, we're working across the board. Last year, in 2013, we did some work with the BBC, and that opened a whole different doors for us. We work in Mandirs, we do a lot of work with the Christian community. Obviously we do a lot of work with the Sikh community. That's what we're based.
And it's mainly grooming subjects that you have been working.
Yeah, I mean, we're recognised for that, but I mean there's other stuff, as Benji was talking here. Domestic violence, abuse of that kind, any sort of abuse which is done on our young people, we sort of tackle that.
And we were speaking earlier on about, Polly was just saying, obviously these women are very vulnerable, they're disowned from the family, and we were speaking about weaknesses, and there is actually, shockingly, there's actually a process, or a way in which these children or women or victims are actually groomed, isn't there?
I mean, a lot of people will go by the 6 stages of grooming, where the predator will target the victim. Now, where they target young people, where young people are. Young people are on internet, the predators will be on internet. Young people are in shopping malls, predators will be in shopping malls. So wherever young people mainly are, this is where they are, because they know they're easy pickings.
So, and that's the first stage?
Targeting is the first stage, yes. And then getting acquainted with them, or making contact with them, is the next stage.
And what kind of signs do obviously parents need to be, why why is this happening? Where is there a gap, you know, between parents not being able to notice that, you know, the children might be being exploited like this, whether it's on the internet?
Well, through experience, we've over the 14, 15 years that we've been doing it, we're finding that this generation, the communication in the household is breaking down, and we're not talking to our kids, we're not knowing much about them, and it is, my own personal experience is that it is a communication breakdown, and young people are not necessarily talking to their parents or their families as well, what they're doing outside. And
I mean, having sort of being a father of a 16-year-old, Polly, as well, you try sitting there with my 16-year-old daughter trying to have a conversation with her, and they obviously think they know more than you because they're out in the world and, you know, they're doing their A-levels, or they're, you know, I tell you what, thing that really cheeses me off is a phone. I just wish that they hadn't made mobile phones. One, my wife couldn't get hold of me. Secondly, my children could actually have a break from school. And Polly, what can parents do to sort of, obviously, you know, I've made it a bit light-hearted, but it's a communication gap from both sides, though.
Yeah.
It is a communication gap, and I think it needs to start at a very early age. You need to sit down with your children, you boys and your girls. You need to educate them both, and including the boys, that this behaviour is not acceptable and that there are repercussions on this behaviour. Actually, these are your sisters, these are your, you know, we're all girls are our girls, and we need to protect all of them. And so by sitting down with particularly your children, particularly your girls, at an early age, and saying, this is your space, nobody's allowed to go into this space. As a society, we don't talk about sex very often, and it's almost a taboo subject. By not talking about it, we're not protecting our children from a young age to realise certain behaviours are not acceptable, and not just from strangers but from within the family as well, because quite often groomers and perpetrators are people that they already know or come to know through the family. So it's important to not put a mould about what a bad person looks like. Anyone could be a bad person, but these are the things you need to do to protect yourself. You need to be able to talk to your parents, and as we've just heard, there is that breakdown in communication amongst families. Now, if somebody is being groomed or is being abused, if he or she is not able to talk to his or her parents, then what chance has the parents got in being able to provide that support? And equally, if they do talk to their families about it and the families aren't supportive, then it further perpetuates the problem. So communication at a very young age, recognising what the signs are.
I was going to say, what are the signs? If you've got a couple of children in the family, what are the signs of grooming, you know, from a parent's point of view?
If a child, say, is a happy-go-lucky child, suddenly becomes inward, becomes sad, you know there's something wrong in that child's life. That should be a sign that you should pick up straight away. If a child likes going to school, but suddenly now doesn't want to go to school, doesn't want to get out of bed, you know that something in that child's life is not right. If a child is eating properly and suddenly stops eating properly, you know that there's something triggering that in its life that as a parent you need to get on top of. If a child is very family orientated and now suddenly for the last 3 months it's sitting in its room and you're not getting any dialogue with it, you know that something is wrong in that. It might be nothing, but as a parent you need to get on top of this and investigate what's happening. If things go missing from home, who's actually taking this stuff away from home? There's little stuff. If there's things coming into your home which you haven't paid for, you haven't bought your children, and there's clothing or mobile phones or other electronic gadgets which are given as gifts to entice these young people, then there should be alarm bells going on inside your head. That should trigger you to start an investigation in your home. And this is what we do with the Awareness Society. We tend to have a parental sort of a course where we tell parents to watch out for 12, 15 different things. So if a child is normally normal and then suddenly goes out the norm, then as a parent you do need to investigate.
I'd just like to add, there's also a responsibility to know where your boys are. and to ask them the questions. Why are you going out at this time of night? Why are you purchasing gifts for other people? You know, because if it's not just the parents' responsibility to protect the girls, but it's also their responsibility to ensure that their boys are not becoming perpetrators of this. And it can become a very gang mentality. They might just get swept along with it initially, but actually they need to recognise what they're doing is wrong. And if the parents can step in, then they can protect both their sons and their daughters.
And I think just one last thing possibly is that obviously we possibly think that it's only white girls are being groomed. I think that's a big myth. Is that right from both of you? It's
definitely a myth. It's happening. Every child is a target, irrespective of color, creed, religion. Every child is a target. And the more vulnerable the child is, the easier that target will become.
And speaking about the victims as well, I looked into the Rotherham report. I was speaking to Polly about this earlier, and it was very difficult to read through some of the facts and the figures in that. But going back to the victims, the effect that such experiences have on children when they come out of these situations after they've sought help and perhaps tried to rehabilitate themselves and get back into the norms are just terrible to know. Mental health problems. What are some of the things that you've noticed?
So, like with any form of abuse, that's a huge trauma that you're asking someone to overcome. So they need the right support, the counselling, but not just the counselling as a one-off piece, it's rebuilding their life. So there are issues where mental health may come in and depression. There may be problems with lack of trust and forming good relationships. So these are all lifelong issues that can manifest themselves over time. Particularly with the Rotherham cases, it was made very clear that of the 1,400 cases that were reported in that report, not one of them were from the Asian girls who were also groomed, which means that these young girls, particularly Asian girls, for fear of disclosure, are not represented in that report. And what that tells us is there are countless girls, particularly Asian girls, who are being groomed but aren't able to come forward for fear of being blamed for it happening to them in the first place, not being believed, being forced into a marriage or disowned, and then having to deal with that within the community as well.
Okay, so Mr. Singh, you know, like you said, you know, the perpetrators and the victims don't come from any particular geographical, political, religious background, and I think there's something that the whole community really needs to wake up because it's affecting everyone, isn't it, really? This does bring us to the end of this interview section. If we want the viewers at home to get in touch with you, tell us where we can get in touch with you.
Well, on the internet, the World Wide Web, you just have to put Sikh Awareness Society and we're the first ones up at Google. You can download any information that's up there. They've got all the numbers out there with a 24-hour helpline as well. So anybody who needs help from within the community, outside the community, they can just pick up the phone and ring us. And we do say, we're a voluntary organisation, but we do say when we receive the call, within 2 hours, one of our Sevadars will be there to support the family or the child.
That's wonderful. And yourself, Polly, where can we get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with us online at www.sharon.org.uk, or you can call our information line on 0844 504 3231, where you can access further information on these issues.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the Big Bite Breakfast Show today, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Obviously, you've got the details there. Any issues, do give these guys a call. Right, it's time for a break, but after the break, we'll see what Sharon's been up to when she's been out.